So in a week of more agenda-driven garbage from mainstream, Steve and I are going to tell you straight how it is in NRL this week. What do you got, mate?
Mate, we talk about my game of the round, the Raiders-Dolphins, even with 6 Origin players out. We think this will be a cracker. We have a chat about our new favourite player, Cooper Clark, and what he'll be able to do for the Storm to get an upset. And Origin, we are finally talking ourselves into a Blues win after 2 days of looking at these teams.
Absolutely. It's as good as done. And we talk about the Dragons' rebuild is just gathering more momentum by the day and why I think their first win is coming this weekend. I'm Ian Hawkins, and this is Sport is Life. The purpose of sport as I see it is to see your vision become a reality. Find your voice, create strong connections, and learn to trust your body. Steve, how you going, mate?
Yeah, good, thanks, Hawk. It's been a few days since Magic Round and a few days since the Origin announcement, so things have settled in and we've had a good look over things. How you been going, mate?
Yeah, really good, mate. The countdown to Origin's getting excited. I don't know if I'm excited for our team or worried for our team or a bit of both, because I've heard people try and sell the fact that he's picked the right team because it will be refereed different. And he's decided how he wants to play it. But then, mate, I tell you the one that got me today, and tragic news for the poor bloke, Jarrod.
Yeah.
But he's a Queensland Origin, legend, maybe. I mean, I guess they're all legends playing at that level. But it's almost like, oh, no, here we go again. They've got something else emotional to play for. That's the last thing we need.
Yeah, really sad and something that completely out of the blue, obviously. He have that sort of announcement with his MND diagnosis was just a hit out of the blue. Really sad. Obviously, Carl Webb went through the battle, which unfortunately lost a couple of years back, and just devastating news for it. He's only 30. He's got a young child. For that to happen, really sad. So obviously, thoughts are with him and the family, as he's going to face a pretty tough uphill battle. So. It looks like South handled today really well, which would have been a hugely tough day for them. So, look, as far as Origin goes, mate, I've sort of gone past the denial phase of some of the selections of Daly. I'm obviously a Blue fan, so I'll change to now getting on board and trying to support best I can and start getting hopeful. As a Dragons fan and a long-suffering one, I'm good at putting things out of eyes view and just blindly following the faith.
We'll come to the Dragons, mate. Let's not jump the gun.
I'll do that with the Blues, mate. But look, same as what we mentioned on Monday. There's a few head-scratching selections, but we get behind the Blues now, and hopefully we can talk up a victory over the next week or so.
Yeah, absolutely. You well said about Jarrod. Horrible news. I really... that his family and himself just having to deal with something like that when it's almost inevitable outcome. I pray that we don't find a link between head knocks and MND. Not that we want to find the answer, obviously, but, you fear for the future of our game if there are too many things. I was talking to a mate who played the highest level of football in Australia the other day, and, some of the different health challenges that are popping up for him. It's, it's pretty tough to hear. So, we just want to send all our best to him and his family, as you said, and the whole club, because that's going to have a fairly significant impact, you reckon, for when you see one of your mates going through something like that.
Yeah, mate.
But I do hope it doesn't inspire the Queenslanders, just because that's something that they do thrive off. Anyway, let's separate those two things. Okay, so where do we start today, Steve? Do we want to talk through maybe we start with some of the issues. One of the issues that's been pissing me off is the mainstream media still just talking the same crap that they're you mentioned it before we hit record. They're positioning themselves to get a new contract for the NRL, which you can imagine. But it's just another example of them not being impartial, of them saying what needs to be said or following a certain narrative. and it just does my head in. I can't watch 360 anymore, which is disappointing because I used to love it. I'm struggling even to listen to the Triple M podcast because they're kind of a bit the same, and it's just like the same stuff. And I guess it's one of the reasons why you and I decided to do this, because we want to talk with no agendas and just lay it all on the line. I don't know if you're feeling the same way, mate.
Yeah, definitely, mate. I was a massive 360 fan when it first started, especially obviously that was quite a few years ago now. But to me, every time someone gets on the panel, someone writes an article in a newspaper at the moment, it's just agenda-based stuff. We've obviously had a dip at Anasta. He's continuing communication last year around his players on 360 and using it as a podium was just horrific. And look, if anything, I've followed it very closely, being a Dragons fan, with the way he was with Ilias last year. Obviously, again with Pizzette as well. It's just, for me, it's not what we're here for. We're not here to listen to any of them hop on a soapbox. We want to know what their opinions are in an unbiased fashion. Some of the journalists, there's always been agendas in the game. There's always been journalists that have been close to coaches. Kendy and Ricky Stewart have famously got a very tight relationship. And Dobson up here has always been very close with the Broncos. So there's always been, Bedell at the moment is very close to the Broncos. So there's always those guys that are worried about the next paycheck, and they're worried about if they disrupt the apple cart that they won't get the next big story or the next big scoop. So it's disappointing, and those shows are starting to get really, really hard to watch, mate, because it's not what the show was designed for. The show was designed to be, entertaining and giving us all the facts of all the information across the game, and now it's just turned into a one political story after another for mine. So it is starting to wear thin, mate.
Absolutely. I do, to their credit, Kenty would always call out his bias and go, obviously I'm going to have a bias towards Ricky, and for all Gordy's how much he frustrates me with his commentary, he's not shying away from the fact that he's backing his mate Kevy, and he feels aggrieved by the Broncos and those sort of things. So at least they're calling him out. But the others that are just like, trying to convince us they're being impartial and just not, mate. Anyway, we better not rant and rave too much about that, although I'm sure plenty of people listening agree. We are obviously biased towards our teams, but we, as much as possible, will be pretty upfront about that. And also, if anything, we're probably too biased against them in a lot of ways from the being jaded from so many negative years.
Yeah, spot on, mate. It's been a tough ride. So, look, it is what it is. We'll keep doing what we're doing, and hopefully the listeners are out there and enjoying it and liking it. And we'll just keep having a chat as if it's two blokes having a schooner and giving each other their honest opinions, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. And very much looking forward to next week when we will actually be having a schooner, so we'll have to record something when we do that too. The other thing is, mate, they're copying our material too.
Yeah.
Like, it's happened. We've noticed it a few times. I mean, obviously we're pretty good judges and they pick up on that. But they're definitely listening to the podcast, because the narrative coming out this week about too many cooks. I mean, we talked about that on Monday, mate. First with the news here on a Monday.
Yeah, we did. Obviously, everyone's breaking down Origin as quick as they could get their hands on it. But I did, Crawls especially on 360. I saw some shorts on one of the social medias, and he was repeating everything we said line for line. So I would like to think that he's out there listening. I don't know whether he really is or not, mate. But it was amusing. It gave me a laugh.
Yeah. Well, that's it. We could laugh at ourselves at our own expense, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Now, the Dragons rebuild just seems to be gathering momentum at the moment. It's a 1-year deal, but I can see this being a very astute buy from the Dragons. 1 year for Connor Watson. As a Dragons fan, firstly, I'll say I was sceptical when Para signed Pezzett for a year. I kind of drank the Kool-Aid and then I was on board with it, but now I'm back to square one and going, what's been the point of this? Because he didn't gel initially. He had some good individual moments. Didn't fit into the defensive system. He's now not in the team. Even if he was going to, give him a few months' grace to get in the system. Well, now he's been out the last 2 months. Kind of feels like a waste of time. Connor Watson, on the other hand, I can see this having a massive upside. You've added a elite front row or edge in Kalamatangi. You've got Metcalf, you've got Drinkwater. Suddenly you've got a bit of speed, you've got a bit of mongrel up front, you've got ball playing, and now Connor Watson in there who's going to bring a whole other dynamic of speed and creativity you are desperately lacking.
Yep.
Mate. Good signs. It's not necessarily going to put them in the top 4, but you can already see how they'll be an infinitely better team next year.
Yeah, 100%, mate. Look, I'm not a huge fan of a player signing these 1-year deals with something, in the future, but this is completely understandable when you talk about Watson going to PNG. So he has to play somewhere, obviously. To your point, Connor Watson's been around. He's played representative football. He's been at some of the better clubs in the NRL. He's been in really good systems. And I think he's going to be a really key positional player as well. If you look at Cookie leaving the club at the end of the year, they'll have Little as their top hooker, bloody good footballer. So he's been injured a couple of times over the last few seasons. So trying to think that he's going to play 80 minutes for the whole season is going to be a big effort. So to have Watson there as a backup, him take 20 minutes off him. And then same thing at the opposite end of the pack with probably Hamish Stewart or one of those other young fellas playing lock, where, pushing out 80 minutes for 26 rounds is going to be a big ask. So if he can be on the field for 40 to 50 minutes and spell those players and give them a bit of a rest, and that'll also help, that line speed. We've started to see these teams really do some good things when they've got that almost second hooker playing lock, where they're really quick, good line speed in defence. So, look, yep. I like it, mate. And then to your point overall, Dragons haven't really been traditionally good at recruitment. Anything that they've ever done, they've realistically built from within. And they've gone out and did Holmes, Cookie and Gutho over the last couple of years to try and give them a bit of experience. And that's worked with varying degrees, obviously. But this last sort of month and a half period, they've gone berserk. And to recruit the quality and the calibre they have, obviously nothing's guaranteed in the NRL, but those 4 players alone have just added a little bit of star power to the club, and that'll hopefully attract others. When they see that young forward pack performing as well as they have, they've seen those 4 other players go to the club. It's promising signs. So at least from a Dragons fan, it's the first time we've been excited about some recruitment for a long time. So hopefully that'll help next season and get a few W's on the board.
Absolutely. Still 3 of them are a gamble for mine. Metcalf, and Drinkwater. We talked about Metcalf. He's played minimal games. Drinkwater's getting, he's going to be 31 next year, and same age as Gutho was when he came over. He's going to have a bit more speed about him. And then Watson, 1-year deal. But again, where you're at, it all looks like great news at this point. So fingers crossed that is the case. Yeah. Some other things in the last couple of days. Vegas is announced, and 4 new teams. It's good that we're not having to play the Storm in the first round.
Yeah.
So that's Storm and the Tigers. You imagine there's going to be a heap of both of those teams going, and plenty of para fans going. But like I said in my family group chat today, when someone said, "Are we going to Vegas?" I said, "Well, it's a long way to go to get beaten by the Titans." So, as much as I was on board when I was hearing all your stories, when I did the math and started thinking about the walk out of a stadium after a loss, particularly from against a team that's not necessarily high profile, I'm struggling to justify it at the moment.
No, mate, you got to go win, lose or draw. For any of those fans, or any just rugby league fans for that matter, it is one hell of an experience. So, if you can put away some money each week, it will not disappoint. It's one of a once in a lifetime thing. But yeah, look, as far as the teams go, for the fans, it's an exciting time to be able to see your team play in Vegas. Whether you're there or sitting at home, it's a pretty big deal. And there's plenty of eyeballs on the game. So it's good for those clubs. Obviously, the Tigers over the few years have sort of missed out. They've had round one buys and missed out on magic rounds and all sorts of things. So for them to get that, it's good for the club and good for the supporters. So hopefully plenty of them get out there to Vegas and make the trip and enjoy themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we better move into our previews now. This is going to be tricky, I think, for most tipsters trying to get this right, given how disjointed most of the teams will be from Origin. Yep. It's also a kind of time of the year where, for your own team, you hope that you might jag one when you're playing against a weakened side. But it's also, I mean, we're already talking about this year. It's been a much harder watch. I think this time of year is a hard watch usually too, because you just know that it's not real standard. Be interesting. Anyway, we'll start Thursday. We begin with Raiders Dolphins. Who do you like here, mate, and why?
Mate, I probably like the Raiders. They're obviously at home, and while they've lost Strange Young to Origin and Semi Sasangi to an injury, they're probably fared better through the Origin selections than the Dolphins. The Dolphins obviously lost Hammer, Plath, Cobbo and Flegler, and then Nicarima's injured, and we've just heard this morning to a lot of super coaches nightmares. Herbie Farnsworth pulled up crook and looks like to be pulling out as well with a hamstring. So that's a huge dent. And while those players for the Raiders have been playing some really good football, I just think they line up a little bit better. Certainly the Dolphins pack's still nothing to sneeze at. And it's not going to be an easy one, but it'll be cold down there at Canberra Stadium on Thursday night, and they've probably just got that little bit too much about them, the Raiders, for mine, mate.
Yeah, Dane Laurie's a pretty handy replacement at 6. Zach Hoskins is back. Xavier Savage returns. So they've certainly got some good names coming back, and yeah, like you said, Dolphins got some big outs there. I will say this, though, the start of the year and last year at different times, the Dolphins did a great job with long lists of injuries. So if there's a team that can navigate, it's them. Francis Molo's no mug coming in there. They got Trey Fuller, and we've seen what he's been able to do at fullback. They are missing some key pieces in the middle. I mean, Max Plath, you talked before about those smaller guys who can play hooker and then come in and play in the middle, and he's been killing it there when he's been shifted. Yep. I still think this one might be closer than we think. It will be cold down there, but I'm still not convinced on the Raiders. Should be a good one, though, I reckon. All right, Friday night. It's interesting to see that Gus finally... I don't watch 100% footy, but I heard someone talking about it in the week saying that the Bulldogs had been pretty much a no-go zone. But he's finally come out and said there's problems, and he said it was when they were down 24-0. He's, maybe their confidence is much worse than I thought. And I was noticing on this post about that very subject, the Bulldogs fans, mate, they've turned on him. They were coming for him, and they were coming hard. Because they were like, teams have had way worse injury tolls than they have, which is probably fair. And, they were not happy. Especially seeing they've been chasing a potential halfback and hooker after they told us that they had that all sorted when they got rid of Reid Marnie and Toby Sexton. Interesting.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, we've said it during the preseason review of the Bulldogs. There's no doubt they had troubles with the spine. It hadn't gelled since they got rid of Sexton and Mahoney, and it's still not right now. So, we called, obviously everyone saw Connor Watson. As I said, on Monday, there were reports he's met with another young hooker up here. And then the halfback, they had conversations with Metcalf. Obviously, it didn't go their way for whatever reason. But there's no doubt that they've figured out that they've got a problem. There's talk that Connor Tracy, and there's been talk about that for a few years now, but there's talk Connor Tracy, they're not happy with either. So he's had a complete and utter rethink and blow up about the whole plan moving forward at the moment, mate. So interesting to see what happens. The fans, on the back of last year, the fans' expectations were really high in Belmore. And it just hasn't delivered this year, and it's obviously not going to turn around quick enough now for them to make a run of it the back end of the year. So he needs to make some big decisions with some personnel. He needs to do it really quickly, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. They've won 3 games because I've kind of forgot that they'd had the bye. So they're actually going worse than most people will think just looking at the raw ladder. So Jaden Salmon's copping a fair bit. And again, if you look at some of these dynamic guys playing 13, he doesn't quite fit that bill. Bronson Cherry was mentioned in a switch. I don't know how much truth there was to that, or whether that was just a media beat up. It's wow, interesting times. The thing with the Storm is that they have found a bit now, and they still got Jerome Hughes playing in the 7. They still got Farlongo at the back. They still got the same 1 to 5 that they had last week, and they started to go well. They still got Josh King, Uatukamanu, Sean Bloor, Lasardi, Cooper Clark. The depth is going to be tested, but that's still a pretty handy looking outfit. And Jack Hetherington, who was playing some really good football a couple of years, can't even get a start still.
It's going to be a real interesting one. To your point, obviously Crichton's out for the Bulldogs, and he's, they do beat on about him being, the leader and one of the best in the game, etc. Whether you believe that or not, that's the word going around. If they can't beat the Storm without, Munster and Grant, Trent Liero, it's going to be another mark against them. There'll be a lot of Bulldog fans that'll see that Storm side. And assume they're going to get a win. To your point, though, it's not going to be an easy walkover. They're going to miss Grant hugely, right? For me, he's been in the top 3 players of the comp to start the season. Just hasn't got the rewards or the recognition because they've been losing, but he's been phenomenal. And Munster, we all have continued to admit, himself included, he hasn't been playing tremendous football. So that full pack with Cooper Clark starting in the middle at 13, and obviously Udukamanu missed the Origin side, so he'll have a point to prove. He's heard plenty of media that, the public aren't real happy about the forward pack that Daly picked, so he'll certainly want to go out and prove a point. So they're not going to be easy to get over, mate. So I, with no form or confidence in the Bulldogs, I think we could be staring down the barrel of an upset, and the Storm still knocks them over here.
Yep, I agree. I don't know if that's an upset, actually, but I guess it depends on how we look at things.
Yeah, good point. I don't know what they're offering up at the moment, mate. But I just look at that side and think to myself, the Bulldogs need this win just to settle the masses down a little bit. And as I said, without Crichton, they've got Jacob Carraz back, which is a monster one. Josh Curran's back, hasn't been huge this season. And they've also got Marcelo Montoya on the extended bench. So Jonathan Sewer's been playing some wing there for them. So whether he comes in as a late replacement for Jonathan Sewer or not, but certainly Carraz will help them. They've missed that punch in the middle in the early tackles of their set. Leo Thompson hasn't done what he was brought to the club for, so they really need to help with go forward. So Carraz will be a big inclusion. He'll get through plenty of work for them. But for mine, I still like the look of the Storm with that 4-pack, mate.
I've seen enough from Jaden Sewer to say the season's as good as over. Persist with him, because he does look like he's got some real talent. He's certainly got the physicality. He's got plenty of metres in him. Obviously, for a young guy, less than 10 first-grade games, he's going to have some defensive deficiencies, but how do you learn? I'd be persistent with him. I think he's got more upside than Montoya, but that's just a fan's perspective. I think they're going to be too good, just for clarity, the Dogs $1.75 favourites at this point, which seems crazy. But anyway, be interesting to see how the bookmakers have gone this year, given the unique way the game's been playing. We might have to ask our old mate on Tuesday when we catch up.
Yep, good shout.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of upsets, this is the chance. No, I'm not joking, mate. I saw enough from the Dragons last weekend to suggest that they are going to have a much better finish to the season. There was some actual creativity in attack. They had so much more steel in their defence, like you've been banging on about. That young forward pack's really starting to grow.
Yep.
Playing a team that are missing some key people. Kurt Capewell, for me, is one of those players. He's like the glue of a team, and it's why he keeps getting picked for Origin.
Yep.
I would guess, without knowing the statistics, that the record over the last probably 6 years for Queensland with Kurt Capewell and without him would be very much in favour of when he's in the team. They're going to be without Tanner Boyd. Metcalf's still not back. Tamari Martin was good. We did talk about that on the Monday show. Missing Barnett. Again, he's been out a fair bit. I like the positivity coming out of the Dragons at the moment, and I think they are a real chance here at home.
Yeah. Look, I'd love to be a little bit more hopeful, like you are, mate. I think they're going to still be up against it. For your point, though, mate, it's 100% granted. You have seen bits and pieces of improvement. She's been slow and steady, but you can tell he's made the decision young, hoping that he'll be there next year, that this young forward pack's the way to go forward. So he's named that side as is. Jaden Sewer's back, which is a big addition, but with Moses Sully out, they've named Jaden Sewer in the centres. So that'll be an interesting watch. He's a huge body to be playing in the centres, but the Warriors are massive across the board themselves. So that'll be good to watch, to see how he performs. So look, the Dragons will keep trying, right? They're not going to go away. And to your point, even last week, they kept trying till the very end. The entire effort was really impressive. They just didn't have the cattle and the talent. Look, the Warriors missing the three you mentioned. Obviously, Tanner Boyd's the big one, but Tamari Martin just come in last week and first, as we said on Monday, first tackle he put on a set play and was straight into the game. So he's going to be really important to them. But that forward pack's still for mine, even missing Barnett and Capewell. You know, Fisher, Harris, Egan, Ford, Leka Halasima, Leyburn and Clark. It's still one impressive forward pack. So, you know, we mentioned Udakamano. I think Jackson Ford's probably even more unlucky not to make the Blues side. So he'll be doing everything he can to put up a good performance in case New South Wales lose and they want to make changes. You know, he'll be doing everything they can. So, again, it'll be a really strong test for the Dragons forward pack coming off Penrith to come up against the Warriors. So hopefully they can, hold their own and put in a good showing and see what the backs can do out wide, mate.
Yep. Traditionally, the Warriors have come into their own through this Origin time because they rarely have that many representatives.
Yep.
From memory, last year they actually had a bit of a dip in Origin, and that was part of where their season started to unravel after they'd been so impressive the year before in 2024. So it'll be interesting to see which way it goes. There's still some young blokes in that forward pack, and that's just going to be a given that they're going to struggle for consistency. I just think eventually the Dragons are going to win, and I just think they're just at that. They're primed for mine, and eventually the travel's going to catch up with the Warriors at some point. They've got to have a dip. It would have been a pretty tough, even though they had so much possession against the Bronx. The Bronx worked them hard as they always do. So interesting. And you can get $4.25 in the Dragons, mate. There you go. Not that I'm a gambling man, but empty the wallet.
No, I'd need your money there, mate. But I'm hopeful.
As always. I tell you where I won't be emptying the wallet. That's on the Titans, even though they're paying about the same. Yeah. Even without Olakawatu, Kola and Hopewadi, they're just going too well. I saw a quote from Tom Travojevic saying, if you can't get up for Kieran Four, and then you shouldn't be wearing a first grade jersey, he said, because he just instills so much belief in every player in the team. And that's what it looks like. That's how they're playing. They're playing like they've just bought into what Foran's trying to do. And I was having this conversation with a young fella on the weekend. They are suddenly one of the premiership favourites. And who would have thought, given what we were saying after 3 rounds?
Yeah, it's quite astonishing. You talk about Trbojevic, he's listed down to be back in round 13, which is the week after this. So that'll be an interesting addition. They're playing as well as what they are without Tom. We've just heard Jake Trbojevic has taken up his option for next year. When you consider there were calls for him to be dropped and sacked after 2 or 3 weeks, it's quite the turnaround itself. So, yeah, look, for mine, Tino hasn't been shooting the lights out, but Tino and Jojo Fafita are out for the Titans, and they've lost a forward and a back, Manly as well, that you mentioned. So for mine, it's pretty even in that instance, and no major ins for either side. So you look across the two teams, and within reason, they're pretty unchanged. So Brookvale Oval on a Saturday night. The Titans would want to come out of the gates, or it could be a long night for them. I just think Manly are just going to have too many points for them. Even if they've got to go toe-to-toe early, the Titans have put in some good performances in the first half. I think Manly will just get to the back end of the game and just have far too many points for them with that back five, mate.
Yeah, agree. Your old man came up pretty hard for me choosing Luke Brooks as my underrated player. He's putting together a pretty handy season. He is one player that's thriving in new age NRL, and with Fogarty there, who's also really found a spot there in the Eagles team, a forward pack that's suddenly punching well above its weight, which was one of the areas we thought they may struggle, and as we've talked about before, speed to burn. Suddenly they are looking like a really good prospect, and you wouldn't imagine a couple of players out is going to halt the momentum at the moment.
No, spot on.
So we go to Sunday's game, and just looking at the draw now, it's like there's not as many windows to watch footy on the weekend, and even worse, there's not a great deal of excitement about some of these matchups either. So it's going to be a tough weekend, but we'll be there with our notepads out, and we've got the Sunday game, Cowboys Rabbits. Now, this should be the game of the weekend. What are your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, look, for mine, obviously Ruben Cotter's been pretty big for the Cowboys. His origin out, I sort of get, balanced out with Taumalolo back. So could have been calculated to have Taumalolo have a week off last week just to freshen him up a little bit. So now we look back at it, and you sort of put 2 and 2 together. We should have picked that up last week, but that looks like a really good resting for him. Still a decent forward pack. Lukey and McIntyre have been playing solid on the edges. Not a huge Matt Lodge fan. I think they could be getting some more out of the front rower, but they're obviously a middle short with Cotter. But South, for me, they've got a few out. Obviously, Cam Murray and Campbell Graham have been a huge origin selection. And then on the back of that, obviously, Latrell's out for an extended period with his back. So for mine, I think the Cows have got an opportunity just to capitalise on what they did last week. They've had that one loss a couple of weeks ago, but outside of that, they've been on a pretty good roll. So they'll see this as an opportunity to solidify that and win one at home. Adam Elliott hasn't had a lot of game time, and he's going to start in the 13. And the big one, another second rower playing in the centres is Tallis Duncan. I didn't have Tallis Duncan and Jaden so playing centres on my bingo card this week, but they've both been named in the centres. So I'd be very careful if I was Jackson Badoo or Tom Chester, whoever he's going to mark up on, because he doesn't muck around old Tallis Duncan. So he'll be putting in a big performance. So, yeah, for mine, I think the Cowboys, again, will just have a little bit too many points in them for the South defence, mate.
Yeah. Pretty good story. I don't know if you saw the video doing the rounds of young Talanoa Penatana,
Yes.
talking to his sister, who we know already is a gun in the NRLW, and then talking to his mum. Those videos are fantastic, and it's good to see the young fella getting emotional as he was telling them, because it means a lot to these guys. They put so much into it, and of course the people closest to them also invest so heavily in their journey. Really cool story, as it always is. Which is a good lead into us talking about the debut makers, mate. So tell us what you got.
Yeah, we've picked 3, mate, this week. There's obviously going to be a few more with Origins, and there's a few extras on extended benches. But Talanoa Penatani's the one you just mentioned. He'll be in the centres for South. He's a Matraville Tigers boy. I know the pie shop at Matraville's world famous, so I hope he hasn't been having too many of them. He's come through the grades there, and looks the goods. He's a good size young fella. He had some good trial form when he got a few games to start the season in the NRL squad, and looks pretty impressive. So he's on the wing here, traditionally in the centres, but look to him to really work hard out of the backfield, mate. He'll be a good one. Another one we saw you talk about videos. If you haven't seen it, get onto it. I hope I pronounced this right. Is Jordan Utah from the Raiders. His old man presented his jersey and spoke in front of the team. A lot of passion. So his journey's come through Western Sydney with Parramatta, mate. He's one of your juniors. He played ball and Matthews out at Parramatta and made the New South Wales 19 side last year. We've already seen Casey McLean and a few others pop through to first grade out of that side. Mm-hmm. He has one hell of a mullet. He did have in his stock photo. So if he's still got that now, you will all be very impressed with that mullet. So he's got some wraps on him. So it'll be interesting to see how he performs, mate. Back rower. So hopefully he gets some game time. And then the last one's the hooker replacing Harry Green at the Storm. So his name's Gabriel Stradic. So he's part of that Storm Jersey flag winning team from last season. So had Cooper Clark with him in that side. So they're starting to see some of those guys start to push through. So he does a little bit of interchange and starting hooker role for the Storm reserve grade side, currently playing in the New South Wales Cup, and has been doing fairly well. So hopefully all 3 of them have a debut to remember, and all the family and friends are get out there and be proud of them.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the debutants last week was talking about how many tickets he had to get for his family. And he's like, how many can I get? Like 15? And they're like, we can do 15. He goes, oh, really? Can you do 30? and they're like, yeah, we'll find you 30. And this is a magic round. I think he said it was something like 40-something in the end. Who was that? Might have been one of the Cowboys debutants. But, yeah, great stories. And when you're a parent of a young athlete, even just at their local level, when they sort of progress to that next level, either they make a rep team or they sort of play. I know your young fella's not. Oh, he does play a bit of seniors, doesn't he? When they start playing against men and you see him sort of step up, it's really proud moment. So some pretty cool moments. Now I talked about my game of the round. I think it's this game, the Cowboys Bunnies. I think, like you said, the Bunnies had that one loss last week, but they've just seemed to have found a way most weeks. Without really being fantastic, they've won all but a couple of games, and they, like as Bennett tends to get teams primed for the right time of year, the upside for them is big, and they seem to have a pretty good crop of young blokes. I mean, I mentioned Peter Mamazoulis the other week. Surprised that he wasn't playing more. He comes back. We talked about the young fella on debut. Jamie Humphries is back. There's plenty to like about them. And the Cowboys, they have been inconsistent. Their best is really good. I got a bit carried away perhaps on Monday because I know they played against the Roosters team that converted pretty low. But both teams have put together their last 2 months in particular have been pretty handy, and I can see this one being pretty end-to-end as well. It's funny, we talked about the Bunnies at the start of the year lacking speed, but they've just created speed in how they've played.
Yeah, they have, mate. It's been interesting to see how each of the teams have adapted, and they've been one of the better ones early doors. So it'll be interesting to see how they go that game without Origin stars on both sides. Look, for mine, the most valuable 2 points, and I know that's not the question, but the most valuable 2 points are the Bulldogs Storm game. I think whoever gets them, they're going to be valuable for them. You know, the Bulldogs, it'll just sort of settle the masses a little bit, and the Storm, it'll just help them for the back end where they've got another 2 points without their Origin stars. But game of the round for me is going to be the first one, the Raiders Dolphins. I think the Dolphins can hang in there without losing so many stars. I think they've still got a shot. Well, I think the Raiders will do them. I think that could be still a high quality game of footy. So that'll be my game of the round, mate. That I certainly won't be missing tomorrow night.
Yeah, that will be a good one as well. Now, lock of the week, I already talked about it, and it pains me to say, but Manly, they are. We talked about Newcastle being a must-watch. Well, if you want a lesson in one of those words I talked about before, the way Trebojevic was talking about before, and you want a lesson in self-belief and a team playing for each other, you just go no further than watching the Mighty Eagles, because they are going well, and I know, even with a couple of players missing, that they will again be right up for the fight, as they have been every week since Foran took over, and they should be well too good for the Titans.
Yeah, you've nailed it, mate. The Manly, for mine, can't see a way the Titans are going to go down to Brookie and get the chocolates, mate. I think Manly are just far too many points for them, and I think they'll be pretty slick doing it as well, mate.
Absolutely. Who have you got for your upset of the week this week, Steve?
Well, we mentioned the Storm, mate, and I wasn't sure where the odds sat, but I got the Storm. As I said, I think they'll just keep on the run. I think they've got a good, solid four-pack that'll have too many metres in them for the Bulldogs. I see the other games probably going how we'd expect, but I think the Storm will get the win.
Yeah, and I said I was going a bit out in the limb for the Dragons, but I just think they're not just due; they're well overdue, and I just think this game is just cherry ripe for them to step up and finally break through at Cogra, where the fans will be up and about. Given recent news, some of those fantastic content creators that the Dragons fans have that have been very vocal have actually been quite calm and some positivity lately. It's been almost disappointing to watch.
Yeah.
I just think the fans are going to be feral up there. They're cheering their side home, and as we know, there'll be plenty of Warriors fans there, so it'll be a good one to watch from many perspectives. Okay, so that's pretty much the round. We might touch on Origin a bit deeper. We'll go more into this on Monday. I've got a feeling that it will be refereed differently. It just always seems to be. The whistle will be put away to a certain degree. There might be a few token penalties to try and sort of set a standard early, but then they'll definitely allow them to slow down the ruck, and for that. From that perspective, that does play into the hands of New South Wales to a certain degree in terms of wanting to slow the game down a bit and have defence more akin to what we've seen in previous years. What do you think about that, mate?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Obviously, to your point, mate, New South Wales have picked a bigger pack. You know, they've got three traditional front rowers in the side with Saifidi, Barnett and Fanua Blake, and Barnett can play big minutes. He's been injured the last few weeks on and off, but Fanua Blake and Saifidi don't play big minutes in the NRL, so you can't see them pumping out 40, 50, 60 minutes. So it'll be interesting to see how the rotation goes with that. And then to your point, depending on how the referee slows the game down or whether he has it as quick as he possibly can for the spectacle, it's gonna favour the teams that suit that style. Obviously, as we've said with Queensland, if they run out as is with Plath at 13, even on the bench, Pat Carrigan, He's built more like a lock than a front rower. He plays a lot of front row, obviously, but he's built more like a lock than a front rower. And Tino and Flegger have both played at different times on edges as well. So they're a lot more mobile for mine. So New South Wales are going to have to be very careful how they rotate the three big fellas if the game's flying and going quick, because obviously that back line of the Maroons through the middle and then Plath and Harry Grant, we've seen what they can do. They could cause all sorts of headaches back in behind the markers, in the back half of each half.
Absolutely. In saying that, if you look at the back five for New South Wales, there is just so many metres there, and maybe we don't need the forwards as much from that perspective. And then if you look at the speed, like Cleary his best Origin performances have been in more open games. So if it is more open, it opens up. You come off the back of if we can be in the game when Cam Murray comes on, we get quick play the balls, he starts dominating. Moses, we know, is a great ad-lib footballer and playing fast. There could be plenty of points in them off the back of that, and they've got a bit of mobility. So, I'm talking myself into this. The only concern is that we've had this tale too many times before. To me, the thing that's different this year is that we're not looking at it like we perhaps have the last couple of years when we think we should win because of the talent there. We're actually feeling a little bit like the underdogs, and that excites me.
Yeah, there's absolutely no doubt he'll be hoping that, 3 or 4 of the back 5 can run for 200 metres. It's going to be vital for them. And that's why they've gone with Kohler over a couple of the others outside backs, because he knows he's going to get the work out of him. Brian Tuo's done it year in, year out for almost a decade now, and Tedesco gets through a huge amount of work through the middle. So whether you want to go with Edwards or not with him, they're both going to get a lot of yardage. And to your point, they do that better than the Maroons do on the back 5. So look, for mine, if that's what he's hoping for, which is clear with his selection of the back 5, I still don't know why he's picked the forwards he's picked. But to your point, that's who we've got, and that's who we're going to support, and we'll talk ourselves into a Blues victory by this time next week.
If you've got Barnett, Fanua Blake, and Saifidi taking 3rd, 4th, and 5th carries off the back of quick play the balls from mobile meat eaters that we've got at the back, well then maybe it's actually a perfect setup. And like this idea of like too many cooks with Cleary and Moses. Most teams now in the attacking zone will play from a dummy half, and we've got Robson who's going to just scoop and pass. He's not going to overplay his hand there to hit our 13 and then hit the two halves playing together on either side of the ruck. Perfect. I can't see how that's not going to work. And the one game that they already have played together, we had a good win.
Yeah. Look, that won't work if Yo and Tedesco want to get in there and ball play as well. But if they're going to be running footballers, then you're spot on. It's set up. It's set up perfect for that, right? They both like playing their side of the field. They both got a good kicking game. They both are not afraid to lead, their half of the team. So if Yo and Tedesco can become running footballers and not ball play as much as they do during their club games, then you're smack bang on, mate, the mark, and that's what they'll try to do. And to your point, you think Radley, Brayley, Cam Murray coming on towards the back end of the game when hopefully the Maroons are under a little bit of fatigue, that should cut them up through the middle. So look at us, we've already talking to Blues. We've changed our mind already.
I think we're just talking ourselves into being competitive at this point. Let's not get carried away.
Yeah. I just hope, to your point, I genuinely hope Thursday next week we're not talking about a referee and we're not talking about controversy. We're just talking about the best 40 odd players in the NRL being out and out superstars and having a cracking Origin match, and we can't wait to get to Origin 2. That's the big hope for the game for me, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully we get a few hometown decisions with the home ground advantage with the referee, and we can get on a bit of a roll and have the game won at halftime. I am not one of those people that would rather a close game. I'd rather us just win by many.
if it's a close game, you know who's going to win at the end, like they always do, right? Queensland.
Correct.
So
Correct.
yeah, I'm quite happy to be well out ahead, and still be sweating bullets, but hopefully we hold on.
Exactly. Oh my God, we are so jaded by our club teams, are we not?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Mate, I'm looking forward to seeing you on Monday and talking more footy, and then I'm even more looking forward to seeing you face to face for a beer on Tuesday, mate.
Can't wait, buddy. Enjoy the weekend of footy, and we'll see each other soon.
You too, mate. And for the listeners and the viewers on YouTube, make sure you're passing this on to your mates. That you know that there are mates who are fed up with the usual boring agenda-driven stuff on mainstream, and help us get in front of more people so we can, start talking some real sense in this great game that we love. You've taken the time to listen to this whole episode. Now it's time to take action. Commit to one thing you've learned today and make it happen. And to avoid any obstructions, join the Sport is Life movement by clicking on the link in the show notes.